Let's explore carrying shame. In intergenerational cycles, a family will pass its identity to the next generation, its pattern of thinking, feeling, speaking, doing, and being. And the shame identity, the shame pattern of thinking, feeling, speaking, doing, and being, is one that has an underlying message of unlovability, worthlessness, and I don't want to be seen. So there's a sense that there's something ugly, something unacceptable about me, and so I'm going to turn away. I'm not going to bring my full exuberance, my full enthusiasm into the space because I know that there's something wrong with me. Now, in the transference, we have all viruses transfer from one pattern of energy to another pattern of energy. And so the patterns of thinking, feeling, speaking, doing, and being in the older generation transfer to the younger generation. And the younger generation takes it on. This is what I think because this is what Dad thinks. This is what Mom thinks. I don't even question what I think. It is just what is thought in by the giants that control my life, by the giants that I am dependent on for survival and security. Right, so there's a transfer, and it's automatic and unconscious. And there's also a certain contract that comes with that transfer of energy that the grown-up, the giant says, you're going to do this, this, and this. And, if you don't, I'll send you up for adoption. I won't love you anymore. I won't give you any dessert. I won't look at you. I'll be disgusted by you, right? So you must do this, this, and this, or I will not do the things that you need me to do as a giant that you depend on. There's a contract, and that contract is negotiated non-verbally. It's negotiated logistically and physiologically, right? If you as an infant start screaming and your parents look at you with rage and disgust and walk out of the room, that's not a good sign for survival and security in a dependent relationship. And so you may need to start negotiating, i.e., tone it down a bit. Do they still look at me with disgust if I scream at half volume? Or what if I throw things? Or what if this? But there's a negotiation that occurs, and what the child wants, and this is the same as what the infant and child-like state wants in a new romantic relationship. What the child wants is lovability, acceptability in what is. Like, here I am. I want who I am to be loved, to be accepted, to be wanted, and I do not want to be attacked. I do not want to be cast out of the circle that I depend on. And one of the psychological equations in this contract of dependency, and in this case the contract of shame, is that people feel familiar. They have a sense of family with people who are like them. And so you'll find some of the fondest moments in parenting being the grown-up saying, oh, you look just like your dad. Look, he's just like you, Dad. And if Dad looks over and sees a copy of himself, there's a sense of pride, there's a sense of familiar bond. And the same on the other side. Like she's just like you, Mom. She's just like that. It's like that's so we tend to like, and it's interesting, if Dad sees that his son is flying off the handle, for example, is one of the intergenerational patterns that is commonly put down. Dad will have a reaction to the behavior, but will have a secondary reaction of pride or, yeah, that's me, I know that, that's what I do too, right? It's not the thing to do, but I do that and so does my son. And so there's a sense of connection through mimicry. You do this, I will copy it, and in doing so, there's a fundamental establishment of a relay of energy, of a relationship. I do this, you copy it. I do this, you copy it. And in highly dictatorial families, you have, I do this or I say this, and you must do exactly what I say or you're out, right? If you don't do exactly what I say, when I say, how I say, you're out, right? And so that's the dynamic there. And so this is kind of intergenerational transfer of shame. I think I'm worthless. And so, we can then look at like, what is a virus? So virus, a human virus in psychological sense, is a pattern of thinking, feeling, speaking, doing, and being. It's a pattern that is contagious, right? Viruses spread. So if you think of the thought, I am worthless, and that goes down to a feeling of worthlessness, which goes to a sensation of worthlessness, which goes to a posture of worthlessness, a posture of shame. Maybe I look a little bit away, or I'm just, an email arrives and maybe they've found out. The phone rings, oh my God, someone's after me. They found out, right? They found out that I'm worthless, and this virus may co-infect. See, this other virus says worthless people deserve punishment, right? So worthless people deserve punishment, and that virus interacts. You have all these co-infections in hospitals where the AIDS virus just weakens your immune system, and then the pneumonia virus then kills you because you have nothing to defend. And so you have I am worthless, that's one virus, but then worthless people deserve to be punished and don't deserve love, that's another virus. So you can have a series of co-infections that reinforce one another. The more we punish ourselves, the weaker our sense of self is, and so the more worthless we are. And the more worthless we are, the more we punish ourselves. And so it forms a pattern, right? An identity, a pattern of thinking, feeling, speaking, doing, and being. And this pattern is integrated. It has integrity. There's several patterns around worthlessness and punishment and shame. And then we could say that real men are unlovable, or real men are not lovable, depending on how you define. If you conflate masculinity with innate flaw of some kind, then real men are not lovable, or not. If you're not a real man, then you're disgusting in some kind. So you have all of these different things creating a pattern, and the pattern must have a behavior. And the behavior, so for example, part of the behavior. You hear it in my throat? All that coughing. So what's the behavior, right? So a worthless person can't go out and do a great presentation, right? So there has to be something, right? There has to be something. So, because you're not highly confident, highly present, highly competent, that doesn't fit very well with worthlessness and punishment. So there has to be there has to be that. That has to be there. It has to show up somehow. Now, it can show up in a variety of different ways. You can pour soup on yourself just before an interview because a competent person wouldn't do that, and someone who was kind to themselves wouldn't do that, but someone who's punishing themselves might do that. So let's pour soup on. Or you get in an accident on the way to a promotion. So it has to come out in behavior, and that has to come out in the reality. So in that sense, the reality becomes, a scorecard to a certain extent of all the different viruses, all the different patterns of thinking, feeling, speaking, doing, and being that we are carrying in. But it can also be out in the group around us, right? Because someone who truly loved themselves 100% would surround themselves with people who really love themselves 100%. It's just so much easier, right? So much more self-loving. So by just being adjacent to a culture that is filled with shame, filled with dysfunction, etc., it's a reflection that we don't love ourselves enough to move into a different culture, into a different set and setting. So in that sense, right, we can have our own reality work, but we can be surrounded by dysfunctional, unhappy, self-sabotaging people so that no matter how much we give out, it's not enough. And then it comes in, I'm not good enough, right? I give help to this relative and they complain it wasn't good enough, right? Oh, now you give us $100 or now you give us $1,000. That's not very much, is it, right? We really need $100,000 to get out of debt. You give us $1,000, you're not good enough, right? And so now you have less energy expressing your good enoughness. You have more energy feeding a not good enough dynamic. And, and now you're not good enough coming back from there, right? And then you try and help this other person, but they won't listen. You give them a book, they won't read it. Right? They're expressing, they're deferring to the shame dynamic because a shame-based person wouldn't excel at anything, right? And so they're going to go down. But then you're going to feel like my book wasn't good enough, right? And so then that's how the virus spreads as you as you interact with other people with the virus, right? Even if you have a strong immune system, if you have 20 people in your life that all have the flu, they're all going to be sending you various mutations of the flu until, okay, eventually you're going to get the flu, right? Or you're going to have to spend a fair amount of effort not getting the flu. And then the question is, and this is then the entry point to other viruses, for example, self-pity, poor me, a very common virus, and it's closely allied and linked to the virus of shame because, oh, poor me, I can't get rid of my shame, poor me, people, this person gave me this difficult thing that I'm bound to fail at, poor me, I'm a worthless person, so I'm not going to stick up for myself, poor me. So one virus can mutate into another virus, right? So if it's not one, it's going to be the other. Oh, it's just so pointless, right? You can make these fucking videos and then nobody watches them. And then you can get good at explaining them, but what's that good? What good is that going to do? When did emotional viruses start transcending just because you read a book or, to explain them? Like, I read all these books, is not, oh, it's not going to happen. Oh my goodness. It's just so, it's fucking pointless. What am I doing here? I should be, just watching TV just to escape the misery, of my wretched life. Oh my goodness. Let's take a moment to have some self-pity, right? So self-pity can pile onto shame. Shame can pile onto self-pity, right? Self-pity and then shame. I'm not being a positive person, right? We all know that upstanding, worthwhile people, they're positive. They look on the bright side. They've got energy. You're not doing that. You're being filled with self-pity. You worthless person, right? So then there's the shame that one is, a whiner, right? The shame. Let's shame the whiners. And now they can whine and feel shameful about it simultaneously. Now, there's another kind of important dynamic, right? So there's the law of mass that says that when the pinball and the bowling ball collide, the pinball bounces off and goes flying. The pinball is traumatized as an identity, as a pattern. The bowling ball continues steadily because it's much bigger at the point of collision, right? And so when children collide with grown-ups, when poor people collide with rich people in a capitalist paradigm, when high-rank people collide with low-rank people, anyone with a brain has noticed that the people at the highest rank are often more dysfunctional than the people at the lowest rank, right? Like only 5% of Catholic priests were pedophiles, but there were a higher percentage of people at the top of the Vatican who knew about it and were covering it up. So as you go up the power structure, you often find, why is this person promoted? Why does this person become a bishop or a cardinal? For covering up childhood abuse, right? So as you climb power structures and rank, you understand that the people at the top are sometimes lazy. The person at the bottom working 8 hours a day, sweating, making $10 an hour, they're working their ass off. Person at the top takes a few phone calls, has some sex with the secretary, does this, does that, right? It's not always healthy, the distribution of competence or work, or they make really dumb mistakes and then they fire a third of the employees because the company is losing money because of their dumb mistakes, but they never fire themselves, right? You've never had a CEO say, I'm a really dumb CEO, the business is declining, I can't train my employees, I need to fire myself and let the employees run this, right? So it doesn't work that way. In the law of mass, within a reptilian paradigm, the small one goes flying, the bowling ball continues on its original trajectory. Even if it's wrong, even if the bowling ball is going over a cliff and the pinball is actually going towards salvation, it doesn't matter. The big one knocks the small one out of the way. And this is true also with individuals and groups. If you bring a positive, constructive mindset to a despairing employee cult, right? Here's our cult, right? We sit around, we grope and moan, we say that nothing can go right, nothing go wrong. We say, well, how about this and how about this? There's hostility at the one person who disagrees, that doesn't fit into the cult, the culture of the group. And so the group knocks the person out or demands fealty. You start whining about the boss like us, or you're out of here. We're going to set you up to fail. We're going to all collude to tell the boss what a horrible person is until they get rid of you. And then we'll carry on complaining about the boss without anyone daring to disagree. Or we'll all complain about this political party. If we have one person that says, well, what about the corruption of this and this? Oh, it's enraging. Let's get rid of them. Let's not invite them back, right? So the one gets knocked out by the group. And this is how viruses, this is how patterns of thinking, feeling, speaking, doing, and being get transferred. But the initial thought or message is the core virus. And in shame, it's often, I am worthless. So in shame, it's often, I am worthless. And so it comes down to a feeling, and usually there's some kind of posture around that. It can be, I just don't take care of myself. Maybe I have an upright posture, but my worthlessness, it has to have a reflection. It has to have a symbol in the outer reality that reflects it in some way. So I'm worthless. What do you mean? I look good. I drive a nice car, but I won't allow myself to sleep well. I'll just worry all night. So I will feel stressed and unhappy no matter what my outer reality does, because that mirrors the worthlessness. Or I have magnificent sleep, but I drive a junker car. I let the people in my family disrespect and, show, disgust at me all the time. I just say, yeah, I know I'm a failure. I'm a disgusting person, right? But I sleep very well, right? So there has to be, a reflection in some way in our reality. Or I won't enjoy food. Or I'll be very rich, but I won't enjoy it. Or I'll be very poor and I will enjoy it. I'll have a great life, but I could never be rich, right? Because a worthless person couldn't be rich, right? So the virus is the message. The message is internalized often in asymmetrical power dynamics. Right? If a junior employee tells you to go fuck yourself, you just fire them or say, hey, we don't do that, this company, or you need to go out, right? But if the boss says that, and you don't know where else to go, because that's one of your expressions of worthlessness, you didn't bother to find alternatives. So you're in this thing of, please don't fire me, I'll take whatever you give me, just don't fire me, right? So that's the body posture, that's the thought, that's the feeling, I hope they don't push too much. And the boss is giving their feeling of worthlessness to you, and now you carry it, and the boss feels a little bit less worthless because they gave it to you, right? But now their worthlessness is still linked to them because they've got an employee that feels worthless and is not going to take as good care of the customer or as good care of the company, because worthless people don't work at great companies, right? So it's just spreading. It's going to be there in the reality. Now, if you go along with the behavior, right? So it goes down to the feeling, down to the body, into the words of some kind and into the behavior. And now it's showing up as a habit, right? There's a habit, and this is the placeholder of my shame. This is the placeholder of my worthlessness. But I don't feel shame. Maybe I do. Maybe I feel shame that I feel shame, and I've got that loop going on. Maybe I drink to manage my feelings, and then I don't feel shame when I drink because the drink is holding the shame and worthlessness. But then maybe I shame myself for drinking, and so then I add another shame onto that maybe the next day, right? And then I drink some more because I feel ashamed, and then I shame myself some more. So I've got another loop going on. But the thing is, if we stop doing the worthless behavior, then the feeling and the thought comes up for reevaluation, right? Because the psyche likes, the self likes consistency. The brain likes consistency. If I am worthless and I have people that love me and people that pay me a lot of money and I have all these wonderful moments, it's very crazy making. So we have to get rid of the thought I'm worthless if I'm going to have a reality like that. On the other hand, right, if I know that I'm worthless, it doesn't make sense to work towards this great future, so I should just kind of prepare for when they find out and when I get punished and just kind of wait, cowering for that to happen. And be relieved when it does, right? Okay, so my life's a mess because I'm worthless, and okay, well, that's the way it is. So if we start wanting to change our reality, we want to stop an addiction, the feeling of worthlessness is going to come up. The feeling of fear of the unknown is going to come up, because if you change your belief in worthlessness, now you're going to be a different person and you don't know who that would be. So it's going to come up. So I'm worthless, I'm going to knock it down. I'm worthless, I'm going to push it up. And it's traumatic to deal with this in a group dynamic. It's traumatic. As if we say we're not worthless, and the group says, yes, you are worthless, and you don't have the ability to walk away from the group, you're a 6-year-old child, etc., then your need for the group becomes shame, and you have to assume it, right? On the other hand, if you say, no, I am worthwhile, and I am going to leave, and I'm going to go something else, that also upsets the group around, because they've given you some of their worthlessness, and now you're leaving, right? And so you want to get it back, and get no, you're a loser, you're going to, come on, come back, we'll let you in, but we want to push you down, right? Because that makes us feel sane, and it also helps us get rid of a little bit of this feeling that we don't want to, a little bit of this stuff we don't want to feel. We want someone around us to feel it on the outside. And so as we seek to shed ourselves of viruses, we're going to be giving those feelings that were given to us back to the people who gave them to us. Right? If we take the shame, then we apologize for existing, and we apologize for, I'm really sorry that I'm not going to spend my weekend doing what you want. I'm going to do what I want. And we try and, we say, is that all right? Are you going to punish me for that? And there's a frustration. Like, I want you to be doing whatever I want you to do and not what you want to do, because that's what a worthless person would do. And then I don't feel as worthless because you're carrying it. You're holding it. Your life is reflecting my worthlessness because I have rank, because you care about me. Like a 6-year-old, a 5-year-old may just want to make mom feel better and say, okay, when I'm screaming and helpless, you feel better, you feel powerful because you hit me. Okay, hit me. I'll do something bad, you hit me, and then you feel great after beating a 6-year-old up. So I'll do it, right? So that you don't feel bad. But if we stop taking the beating, there's going to be a moment of rage and helplessness and stuff in the abuser that's used to beating us. And we've always accepted it, now we're not. So they have to deal with the feeling that they've been giving through the abuse as a message. They have to deal with that themselves. So this is just some of the territory. And, I'm making this video in a tremendous state of shame, right? I have an abusive client that's trying to get us to do more stuff for free. That's, gets all upset. Gets all upset and worked up when we don't do free stuff, even though, she's got a lot of money. And so the little 6-year-old in me, doesn't want to be beaten up by mom, right? And still carrying mom's shame, right? And so because I'm still carrying it, because there's a terrified 6-year-old that hasn't learned in a traumatically and in a psychologically illiterate culture, my 6-year-old hasn't learned, I haven't learned how to fully, remedy that. I'm scared of her tantrum, I'm scared of her rage, that she will dump off if we don't take the bullshit, right? If we don't take more than is due, she'll have a tantrum and attack and rage and all that, and then we'd get in trouble. Maybe she won't pay our bill. Maybe she'll write a bad review. Maybe she'll hit me, right? So that's the dynamic, right? And if I say, well, maybe this isn't a good job for us, right? Then I'm upsetting mom, right? And so there's a placeholder for an angry woman because there's a 6-year-old that can't get rid of mom because he'll die. There's a 6-year-old who can't get rid of mom, can't get rid of dad because he'll die, and that wants to please them and make them like him. And so, I can talk about these things, but my body doesn't want to move. My body wants to shut down. My body wants to curl up and cry and just wait for the beating, because my 5-year-old, my 6-year-old knows that there's no worth, that I don't deserve, and that all I can do is hope that after being beaten, I will be accepted again. And so that's the very strong reflex in my body, rather than, hey, you've asked for this, you've asked for this, you've asked for this, you've got to charge, you've got to pay for this, right? And so every time you see it on her face, the tantrum, and if the 6-year-old can't deal with the rage, then it's, it's a big crisis. And I go like this and see someone who's filled with worthlessness, filled with rage, as many of us are, because it's an intergenerational virus. Like, she doesn't know necessarily what to do with it. She's going to maybe have to give more of it to her husband, or more of it to her own little girl, right? Her inner child, or her children, because that rage in there is there, and she's looking for a place to put it because she doesn't know what to do with it in an emotionally illiterate culture, right? She just knows how to throw power around as her parents do and as various colleagues of hers do in work. In capitalism, you have a reptilian dynamic. It's all about dominance, right? We'll send out 10 attorneys to your house. Why not one? Well, because we wouldn't intimidate you as much. I mean, do you really need more than one attorney? So why pay $700 an hour for 8 attorneys and know that all that energy is being pushed against you and that you can't win? Why? Right? So that you'll feel, gee, I'm sorry for wasting your time. You're all making more than I do in a week, every hour. What do I have to do so that you'll go away, right? And that's the bullying game. That is the game, right? In capitalism, right, we've got all the market share. We might give you a little bit if you sell us your company at a cheap price, right? So that's the bullying game in capitalism. It's the bullying game in law. It's the bullying game in government. Like, why send a SWAT team and kick down someone's door because they're smoking marijuana? A little knock would suffice with one person, but it doesn't make good TV, right? It doesn't show how we're going to bully the shit out of our own citizens with their money, right? I mean, what could be more shaming than that? We're going to steal this amount of your money, and if you don't pay it, you go to prison. Your family will be broken, a broken home without so we're going to do that. We're going to take the money, and then we're going to use the money to pass various laws that protect us, the government, and disempower the people. When you're off working, making money for us, we'll be passing laws that protect us make the government's job easier, and then we'll come bully you with it, your own money. Well, I guess I'm such a worthless person, I guess I deserve that, right? So what do I have to do, right? And that's the way it should be, say the shame-based people at the head of those institutions. A couple's taking LSD. Oh God, let's surround the house, right? Or let's not even let people make mature decisions in their own home, right? Let's show that we have a control on what you think, on your free, So these are all viruses, right? Why might someone feel really helpless and want to be a police officer, right? Well, then I'll be strong and do what? Be able to make other people feel scared the way I felt scared at 5 years old, right? So otherwise, it's not a very thrilling job, right? If you can't pass on all that shame to other people, make them feel small. Like, let's have 2 police officers stop a car when 1 is plenty. Do you know why we stopped you? Why don't you tell them? Well, no, it wouldn't make them feel small, right? It wouldn't make them... So all this, stay in the car, you sit down, we'll stand and walk around. Stay in the car. Don't get out of the car. Let's use a megaphone, but you talk with your normal voice. Don't talk to us with a megaphone. This is all bullying dynamic. It's all establishing and transmitting shame from a more powerful source to a smaller force, right? Without trying to be helpful, right? That's where the human being is needed for empathy, right? So these are things that we can understand mentally, but the real shift is biologically. So anyway, that's the that's the territory of shame and its transfer. And what do we do? Like, how do we respond? Well, I think a very important response is to gain independence of anyone, of any group, of any country, of any culture, to gain independence. And to do that, you need to have 2 or 3 options, preferably better options, right? Because it's not really independence to say, fuck you, I'm not going to be told what to do, I'm not going to be bullied by you. I'm going over here to be bullied more, right? So that's part of the crisis, right? So you've got to, it takes work and effort to create a better option. But this is so creating better options, earning more money, having more opportunity, being aware of our opportunities, having other clients so that you can fire a client. I've had to fire a few clients, that have gotten excessively abusive. But you see, the thing is, if you're in a shame-based culture, right, you don't necessarily, like, you may have 10 clients to choose from, and they may all be shame-based in different ways, right? This one's going to bully you and express their shame bullying. This one isn't going to pay you and express your worthlessness by not paying you, right? This one is going to waste your time and endlessly change mind back and forth and do that. And this one here is going to do this and this and this and disrespect your boundaries. And this one is going to be clueless, right? And just help, I don't know what I'm doing, help, and be all in terror all the time, right? And so now you're trying to carry their terror as well as get the work done. And this other person may say, fine, do it, here's the money, and not care 1 cent. I don't care about your work. It's just nothing, right? So they pass on the worthlessness as, I've got lots of money, I can hire you, but you have no value to me, right? I'm not going to enjoy you, right? And then you get like 1 in 10 that says, oh gosh, this is great, and they're a nice person to work with, and they enjoy it, and they don't bully you, and they, they know what they want, and then you feel great, right? And then there's 7 or 8 that don't, right, in different ways. And so you then have to, what do? Do you spend all your time interviewing clients to find the ones that, are, not going to shame themselves or you? Because some also will turn you into the abuser, right? They won't make any decisions. They'll be like a 3 or 4-year-old child. What should I do? What should I do? What should I do? And if you don't abuse them, tell them what to do. If you tell them what to do, they'll say, okay, Daddy, okay, I'll do it, because you said you're the expert. And what am I doing? Why are you paying me money to tell you what you should like? What, should I like this? Is it okay? Should I do this? I should do this? You're sure? Okay, I'll do it for you. I'll do it for you, right? And what's all that about, right? So, well, that's someone like me hiring someone, right? So they're in that state as a client, not just as an employee or a child or whatever. And so these things are going on all the time. And it's difficult. It's difficult to both empathize and relate and exchange energy and not contract the virus. It's difficult, right? And so it becomes important in knowing how to heal shame, right? And having a connection with something divine, God got us all that is, right? Which is very hard when we feel we're worthless, because we disconnect from our divinity in order to feel worthless, in order to satisfy those other people, right? And so having a connection to divinity is important, asking for help, taking time, writing out inner dialogue, journaling, studying, exploring things with shame, just studying how viruses work. Look at the physical mechanics of a virus, how it destroys the immune system. Like a client might say, now, I just don't want you ever to say anything on this job that will raise the price. This is my maximum budget. Do you agree to that? Okay, I'm not going to say anything to raise the price. Okay, so now they've disabled the defense, the immune system. And then they say, oh, could you do this for me? I can, but I thought you didn't want the price to go up. Oh, I don't want the price to go up, but can you do this for me? Yes, by raising the price up, right? You raised the price. You broke your contract. You deserve to be punished. I'm gonna, that. And so you have a whole dynamic. You can look at how viruses spread in physiology. You disable the immune system. That's what they do a lot in genetics in plants, right? They put in toxins and then they force genes in that don't want to be there because the plant can't expel them. Right? And then the virus enters into a genetically engineered plant, right, which we think has a good outcome, right? But it's questionable if we don't understand psychological literacy and psychological health, that just copying the viral transmission within human beings, which has such devastating effects on a culture, destroying the intimacy and the empathy within a culture, right? Creating a culture of fear. I think it's doubtful that kind of genetic engineering, disabling the immune system of a plant, pushing something in, is going to have a better outcome than what we're getting as a cultural outcome with all of these shame and fear viruses.